Love pecan pie too. Welcome everyone to November Power Hour. Here we are. We're almost to the end of 2023, and we are excited to have you all join us tonight. I am Tessa Chappell. I live in Indiana, joined by Meggan Jax, who is out near Seattle, Washington. So tonight we're going to do 2 layouts. If you signed up in advance, you got the handout emailed to you, and if not, it's on the website and it will be sent again tomorrow. So I am excited to talk about my layouts tonight because y'all know I love my birds, and if you've been following the different classes along the way, you've seen these layouts. So I gotta find my desktop that disappeared.
You can see it. It's spotlighted now.
Okay, I have to clear my things. Okay, here we go. Now I have to go back to it. There we are. Okay, so the final birds. I've been using the same paper pack, and I had the layout I did that you all saw on the handout. So this is what we're going to be recreating tonight. I'm going to use a different set, but one thing I did want to talk about at first is a very common question that people I see post are, I need ideas for X layout. Does anyone have any ideas? And one nice thing about using a consistent collection and tools is that you can choose layouts based on your photos and they can all pull together. And so you don't have to go digging for a specific graduation layout or a baby shower, something like that. It's really a lot of it's in the paper and the tools that you choose. And if you use those consistently throughout. So I'm just going to flip through my layouts that I did for my bird photos. I ended up with 4 layouts. I used all of the same paper. It's a shimmering floral. It was a promo pack from many years ago that, one of those packs that you hoard forever because it's so pretty and you finally find the use for it. So this was the final set of pictures I have. So I was able to cut quite a few of them down to 3 inches. So tonight, if you don't have enough photos to cut down to 3 inches, you can sub in paper for any of the blocks. And then we're going to have a featured photo down here on either side. And we're going to talk about whether we use our corners on top of the photo or below. We're going to talk about creating a little kind of an accent mat and a variety mat. But so this layout is on a Starry Night shimmer. So this was the layout I did tonight. And then I decided to put it at the beginning. And so if you'd watched me do these layouts over time, I had never titled them. I'd never really identified what the layouts were. So that's what the point of this was for in my layout, is I was able to flip it up. And it's just the birds of Cordew Lake. It's May 2023. I journaled a little bit. So I had the journaling under there, and I kind of wanted this kind of a little statement to start the layouts, a little accent down here. So the next set, this was Power Hour a couple months ago. You guys probably remember this one when we did the larger squares cut. I kind of clustered the photos. I still have that Songbirds punch. And then this one, I think this is a Power Hour, I think also. It was more of a 9 square, threw in some circles, same paper, the bird punch. And then this was a set we did in the beginner class. I think it was this month. One thing to note, how many of you joined us for the beginner class? Because I know even though it says beginners and new, a lot of you joined us anyways. I actually did the layout that day on navy cardstock. And then when I put all these together, I was like, you know what? That was probably a bad choice because I didn't use navy on the other layout. So I went back and swapped them out and put it on that Starry Night shimmer for a little cohesion. And this one had the peekaboo pockets. So I was able to get more photos in there. And I used these little, the photo corners to keep my flaps from flapping as I turn the pages. So you're seeing a little bit of a glare because they are in the protectors, because I wanted to show you with the peekaboo pockets on. And then over here, I hid some more too. So those were my 8 pages I did. So they're all different layouts, but the consistent way was, a lot of squares, the same punches, clean lines, and the same paper pack, and they all go together nicely. So today I'm going to make another layout in this design, but I'm going to use different paper. actually from the same trip. I had some other pictures, but for the actual photos of the lake event, I used serene waters. So for the layout, I'm just making one side. So per side, you'll need a base paper and you'll need a variety of coordinating papers. One of them you want to choose, it can be a front or back, or you can choose different ones. We're going to use at least two. And I chose this one. For those of you that had serene waters, there was several papers in there with fish. And I didn't obviously don't use a lot of the fish paper, but you know, this is an excuse. I can use the fish paper, it'll work well enough. I don't have a lot of other reasons to use it. So it's kind of a small print. The back side is this tonal pattern. It has a lot of white in it, which is why I chose a darker base so that these squares will pop out against there. So when you're choosing your papers, you kind of have your two dominant prints that you're going to use and your base paper. That's how I choose to coordinate. We're going to create a border down the middle. I did want to pop color a little bit. I was going through my scraps to see what I could pull out. I found a scrap of this orange I'm going to use as my border base. And then I need another print. I will probably punch out of the fish for the border. If you're using a knockout style, you'll need something to layer behind the knockout if you want to pop more color against it. So I have some deep sea green. And then I have for the variety mat I'm going to make for the layout, I needed a couple of additional colors of cardstock. So I'll probably use a dark sea green, and I have the white, and I had these scraps too. I'm going to use one of them for my mat. So to get started, you need your 12-inch trimmer. And if you have it, you need the square punch. So this is when I have to confess the major error on the handout. So if you want to grab a pencil, as soon as I sent the email, I realized like my grave error. It's not that big of a deal, I realized, but the squares are not 2 inches. They're 1 3/4 because I used the square punch. And I didn't even mention the square punch on the handout. I just said 2-inch squares. I did 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. And then later I was like, that's not right at all. They're 1 3/4. So the handout's already been corrected. So when it comes out tomorrow, you'll have that. But it's if you did 2 inches, if you've done this in advance, your squares are just gonna be a little bit bigger. It's fine. We'll olive through it. But the square punch is what I actually use for those 2-inch ones. And then the 1 and the 3 we're going to use our trimmer for.
Real quick, there was just a quick question asking how many packs did you use of that floral shimmer for those?
Floral.
Yeah.
I think in the end I opened 2. I was able to stretch out those prints quite a bit. I probably could have got away with 1 pack plus the shimmering Starry Night shimmer, except there was a specific paper in there I wanted. So my guess is maybe 1.5 total. So not a lot. I stretched it out pretty well. Okay, so for this, we're going to start actually with once you have your selection, I'm going to start with the border punch. Actually, I pulled out my trimmer. So I was debating. So on the example, I used the mosaic diamond. Pull this back out here. Ooh. Well, this is why you don't. I just hold my pictures off. Stuck to each other. Okay, so on this one, I used the mosaic diamond. It was a promo punch a few months ago. It was the first I'd ever used it. I had a message Megan. I was like, wow, this one's really great. She's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, well, I just finally got mine out of the box. So the knockout style worked really well. If you have mosaic diamond, it's a good choice for this layout because of the use of triangles and squares that we have, and it's kind of generic. But if you don't, it's fine. You can choose another knockout style. I was debating, I could either use the sunshine for my layout today, or you can choose a chain style because we're basically just building a center border. And I thought maybe kissing fish would be fun. It's a punch we had a couple years ago. I don't have a lot of reasons to use it. I did pull out the fish paper. So I think I'm going to build this one. I'm going to punch both just so you can see the differences, and we'll see which one works well from there. So I need to choose. I think I'm going to punch in the fish paper. Figure out where did I put my start hiding all of our pieces underneath everything else. Okay. So I'm going to punch it twice. I am going to punch the sunshine and I'm going to punch the fish and we'll decide which one works best. If you're doing 2 pages, obviously you can double everything. One note I did put, if you were using a knockout punch, when you trim it, you're going to want to kind of eyeball how much paper you have on the side. You're going to try to trim it similarly, which oftentimes is about 1 1/8, actually not a 1 inch. So kind of take a gander of like how wide that is. And when you trim it, you kind of want it to be the same on both sides. The sunshine, and you also can, pull out your little sight thing if you need to see. I'm going to go again with 1 1/8. I think it's the most consistent for the knockout, so you have a little bit of a border on each side. That's what that one will look out like. And then I'm going to punch the fish. This one's also quite messy. So if you're using a knockout, you need about a 1 inch strip or so to put behind it. I could just layer this on here, but I want to pop out that knockout design against the orange. So I'm going to cut a 1 inch strip to layer behind the knockout. And you can see by doing that how it just like accentuates that design down the middle. If you're using a chain style, similarly, except I'm going to go ahead and cut it to 1 1/8 just so it has a little bit more of that wider border against the base. That's my second option. For the actual border base, I want 1 1/8 inch of a strip. So this, like I said, this was a scrap. I'm going to trim it down to 1 1/8, 1 3/8. 1 3/8, which is what the handout says. And the reason why I'm using kind of an odd measurement is that I want to make sure I have enough spacing on the layout for my photos. And 1 3/8 gives me a little bit more buffer than even going to 1 1/2. Okay, so now you guys need to vote because I don't have enough orange to make 2. So this would be the sunshine across my layout. So it does pop out those suns quite nicely. Or I could use the fish just because they're cute and I don't have lots of reasons to use the fish on my layouts. It does kind of look nice with the swirl of the paper. Looks like I'm looking at the votes coming in. I don't know. It's kind of 50-50. Fish, sun. I don't know. Fish something. Okay, we'll go with
Can't
fish.
you just
It's
add that
different.
later? Just put your orange strip where it needs to go and then add the top later.
Okay.
After we
we'll
see the photos. I want to see the photos.
The photos have nothing to do with fish. The only fish theme of the whole thing is that we're at a lake. That was okay, but we'll wait. I get it. Okay, now I need to move on to cutting my squares. So I would need my fish paper back. So depending on how many photos that you're using, I have enough photos for 5. I only need 1 3-inch square, but if you are using less photos, we have 6 squares at the top. And so you will potentially need 6 3-inch squares if you're doing all paper. And you can do all paper if you're using larger photos. So if you know you want to use a 4x6 or 5x7, just go ahead and do all 6 squares because that will provide the mat for your photo. Like if you're just making this layout just for fun, I would just go ahead and cut paper, and then you have full option later to kind of put photos where you want. I also need 10 1-inch squares. When I cut the 1 inches, it's easy to go really fast, but I am going to try to be intentional. I'm going to try to look at my line. As you've seen before, sometimes just being a little bit different on, like, are you at the very beginning of the black line or at the end of the black line on the measuring? You do get those minor differences in measurements. In 1 inches, it can show up a little bit more. We're going to have these all in a line. So I'm just trying to be a little bit more deliberate to make sure I really am trying to get them as close to the same 1 inch as possible. I'm using front and back, so I'm going to do 10 total. If you have the really old square punches, you can get a 1-inch square out of the mini. I think using the trimmer is just as easy. That's 5. You guys want me to move the wave? We can switch the waves. You don't like my waves going up and down. 7. So go ahead and move over to this paper. Nope, not that one. This one. 8. 9. 10. Okay, there's my 10 1-inch. And then I need 6 2-inch. And I am going to use my square punch. Like I said, you could just cut these with your trimmer. I know if I use a square punch, they really are all exactly the same. I don't have to worry about that trimming margin of error. These are 1 3/4, not 2. I think I just said 2-inch again. They're not 2 inches. They are 1 3/4. I think the very old shape maker, if you guys have that, I didn't ever keep one for myself. The very old shape maker has a 2-inch square punch in it. Does anyone have that archaic thing? Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 of these 1 3/4 squares in half. And the way I do that is I line it tip to tip on my cutting mat. I start in the middle and then I go out edge to edge. If you need to, you can use a little dot of repo tape to hold it to your trimmer if you get a little bit too much slide. Or if you have long scissors and a steady hand, you can just cut tip to tip. I have those. I kind of like the waves up and down, but we'll turn it. Let you guys see them side to side. Okay, when I adhere the border base, I am going to 5 and 7 or 5 7/8 from the bottom. And so if you are using our 13 by 13 cutting mat, it is one little line below the 6. And again, the reason to be so particular is so that when I line up my squares on the top, my 3 inches, I will have a little bit of a border still at the top of my paper. I will have a little bit of an 1/8 inch left, and that's why I want to come down the 1/8 of an inch across the middle. If you are not using a 13 by 13 or you just need a little bit extra help, the T-ruler can help adhere this straight. I'm gonna make sure my base paper is on the mat. There's my orange. Okay, my T-ruler's over here. I am gonna get my T-ruler out to help me start on my grid. So on the handout, I suggested working up the top to start. I do have photos. I need to decide how I want to lay them out. I am going to use my fish in the middle. Like I said, these are just the random photos I have left from the weekend. So here's my neighbor with the huge bonfire she lit. It was like almost burning the bottom of the trees. I have a picture of the food. It was so good. Her parents were there and they cooked for us. And then I have some pictures of her dog Stella, who loves me dearly because I used to let her out when she was a puppy. So I have to decide kind of how I want to lay these out on my kind of a little bit of a collage, if you will, of what's left. So when I adhere these, I'm going to start with adhering the center one. And I am going to look up here at the top of my mat. And I know if this is a 3 inches, I'm just coming out like 1.5 inches. So you can kind of get an idea of where that mark is. I'm using my T-ruler down here. And so when I adhere it, I can just butt it up against the edge of the ruler. Repo tape is recommended so that if you don't get it right the first time or 2 or 3, you can rearrange them. I'm going to work my way up and then side to side. So the funny thing about the food, you'll see when I get to the bottom photo, her mom did this very nice charcuterie lunch. You know, we had white wine, the meat, the cheese, all of it. And there was a platter of salmon. Like those of you mentioned Costco, you know, you can get that smoked salmon from Costco and just open it and lay it out on the platter. Well, I'm a little dog naive and I took it out and put it on the table. And then I came back in and Amy's like, wait a minute, where's Stella? And Stella had gone out and she ate the entire platter of salmon before any of us ever touched it because I put it on the table and she could reach it. So we had no salmon with the lunch. Okay, so there's my top. Now I can work on, I need to decide before I adhere any of my squares, I'm going to go ahead and lay out my design, the pattern to see how I want. I'm going to go every other. So it will have to be, actually it does. If you're using the same double side, you can choose. So I can have all of these like fish lines, or I could flip them and have, you know, I could alternate on each side the way it starts. You can decide what way you like best. I think I like that original. I'm going to make my lines a little bit more horizontal. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay out the bottom just so I can see how the big square. So this is kind of my featured photo charcuterie without the salmon. And then I have my 2-inch squares. I'll put side to side. That's true. The fish border does go better with the salmon story.
What size are those squares again?
See, I want to say this on, they're not 2 inches. They're 1 3/4. I don't know why my brain keeps saying 2 inches. 1 3/4. Thank you again.
Probably need to write on that punch for you, like with a Sharpie. and say,
The
this is
thing
a one
I
and
know
three
I
quarter
know the
inch.
size of the punch. I don't know why in my mind I was going 1, 2, and 3 on this layout, and that's never been true. So I will probably do all of these as fish up, but you could swap them if you like the other side of your paper has a nice, I don't know. I guess I like the fish. I'm gonna keep it the fish. So by the end, when I do adhere my triangles, we have a choice. So depending on the photo that you use, with some photos, if you have space, you could put the triangles on top. And if you don't, depending on how the photo, you could put them underneath. And I'm going to use the dotted line, not the fish side. But I'll lay it out for both so you can see. So if you, depending on your photo, I did it. So on this one, on my example, this picture at the bottom, it's not a great photo, but it's a cedar waxwing, which was so exciting for me to see. It was up in the tree, and I do not see those at my house. And so by putting the triangle on the outside of the photo, it really kind of drew the attention to the center of the photo. And so I like the accent of that. Versus on the other side, this picture, which was the two cowbirds, because they are on opposite sides of this 4x6, I couldn't trim them down to a 3x3 to put at the top. And so I couldn't put the triangles on top without kind of encroaching the space in the photo. So on this side, I tucked the triangle underneath. So just kind of that traditional way. But if you can, I think putting the triangles on top of the photo to draw the focus to the center is a fun little technique to do. And I have room on mine, and actually kind of helps clean up the photo. There's, kind of gets rid of some extra stuff, and we're just focused on that nice charcuterie board because I will never make that, but her mom made it very lovely, and it was like one of the highlights of that day. So now I can, determine for sure which border I want to use. Sounds like we all think I should use the fish. I do have a choice, though. I could use the fish side of the print. I have a lot of fish now if I do that, of the fish print. Or I could use the back side of it, which is the kind of the dotted lines. I don't know if you guys can even see. I kind of like the dotted lines because I do have so much fish print in the paper now. I'll go with that. We'll go with the lines. It kind of looks like scales on the fish. So the squares, all of these squares down here are 1 3/4 of an inch. So 1 3/4, either cut with your trimmer or the square punch, and then I cut 2 of them in half. Okay, so then now that I know where I want my pieces, I can go through and adhere them. It's just a little bit of a process. The T-ruler can be invaluable, especially when you do these 1 inches. And just work your way up with some repo tape. Work your way around. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to make you watch me adhere all of them because I do want to talk a little bit about the journaling box here, and I don't want to take up the entire hour. I'll never hear the end of it from Meggan if I do. So I do want to make something that's similar to this that will go over it and kind of accent the day and tell the story. And I used the diamond from our gemstone custom cutting system. We don't see this one come out very much. But I had 2 mats. I have a 4x6, and then I have one cut a little bit smaller. It's 3 7/8 by 5.5, so that it will mat. So I need to cut a 4x6. I chose this tonal paper. And then, like I said, I had these are scraps. They're pretty close. I'm not going to trim them because it does mat nicely onto that. I just have to choose which one. I thought the Serene, do you guys, this one's from that Serene Waters print that got cut up, but I think it would be fun to have maybe some of the orange because of the orange and the border. I think I'm gonna go with this one and see what happens. So I also need 2 colors of accent. I should still have some deep sea green. And I have some white. And then I have my diamond shape. And I need all 3 color blades because I am cutting 3 times for this one. So of the 4x6, I'm going to start by cutting green on the inside track. Line it up on there. I usually stand up to do this, but I think I'm good. Getting it in the center as much as possible. That's cut number 1. And then I need a white one. This is the one I'm going to journal on. And I need this to be red, the red blade. And then I have my accent color. Which color did I just use? Did I use blue? I gotta double check myself. Well, this one should have
You
been.
used red.
I think I screwed this up. I should have used green first. I think I did have green for that one.
Yep.
Did I just use red on the white?
Yes.
Okay.
You need to use blue on the white. It should be the smallest, right?
No, red was white. I think I just went in backwards order. Then I think this one's blue. Yeah. The coordinating paper, which the Starry Night, so the darker color of coordinating is the blue blade. Yes. Okay. I have 3 cuts, so 3 different blades. If your thing, I know, shifts a little bit, this happens to me all the time, just give it a little trim with your scissors. So I have 3 pieces here. The white, so my bigger one, the one that was cut with red, is going to cover the hole in the bigger one. And there's a couple different ways you can adhere this. You can just do a little bit of adhesive around the edges just to get it together, because in the end, we're going to layer this and then you can adhere more on the back. For now, I just need to get it together. Or you could get your mini tape out, or you could turn it over and use tape chips. And on this one, I'm going to layer. I can choose which side. And this is going to sit on here on the back side, and then like this. And this will sit on here. So now I have to decide if I really like my final color choices. I could also flip it and use the green. That orange, I almost feel like was a little bit too strong. And then I can punch another row of fishes, and maybe I could do that. I could do like orange fishes across here. So the birds, or I could, if I did that, it's just gonna be a lot of orange. I feel like that might be a little too much, actually. And I can layer those. And so then I'm going to decorate the front of this, and I'm going to slide it into the peekaboo. And then when I flip it up, I'm going to see my picture below, and I'll have this area that I can journal my fish story on. And then I can further decorate this map. Like I said, I can just punch one more row of fish and cut it apart. And so part of it will be on the journaling side and part of it will be on this side. And then one final thing, if you want to get out your dot tip pens, a lot of us have them and we don't use them very much, but I did do a little bit of dot tip accent around there just to give it a little bit more definition. You can also do this with dual tip. So I got out a couple of colors. I'm not even sure which one. I might end up punching my white again. I got out orange too. So if you have the dot tip pen, however big your dot is how much pressure you put when you push. So I have the orange, which might be nice. So that would pull in a little bit more orange since it was too much on the paper. This is a coral color, which it's just a dual tip, but I find that you just have, they're just going to end up being smaller. And then I got out this one, which I think is denim. It was one of our original dot tips. It just kind of adds in some blue. I could also alternate with the, it's actually kind of a fun pattern the way it is. Alternating the dots all the way around. And then I will probably journal in the blue if I use that, or on this one, I went ahead and journaled in black because I had used the metallics. If you have like the metallic or the dot tip, the fine tip on those is a little bit thicker than our normal fine tip journaling. And so I opted to go ahead and journal in a true fine tip because I was worried about it fitting at all. So that is how I am going to finish out my layout in my journaling box. So I have taken a good chunk of time of that. I should probably get over to Meggan before I get any slack.
Oh,
And
I'm already gonna have.
Yeah, I'll have to
Oh,
send
good
her some
though.
pie. I could deliver her, I could do Instacart and deliver you a pumpkin pie from Costco and then
My
maybe you
husband and
forget
child are at Costco right now. I am not gonna be shocked if they come home with one.
the pumpkin pie. And they're so good. I can't buy them for here because they're so big and there's like 3 of us and the kids aren't going to eat that much anymore.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. Your
You sure you're
turn.
done? You sure?
Probably not. I mean, as long as you all cut 1 3/4 inch squares, we'll call the night a success.
All right. I hope you guys didn't forget about me. So thanks for joining. Like Tessa said, I'm Meggan Jax out here in Seattle, and I've got a layout for you. So we're gonna dive right over into it so that we're probably not gonna get it done in 14 minutes. We will not do the express tour of it. But we'll go ahead and switch over here. All right, so the layout that I have to share with you tonight, there's actually my handout showed the 2-page option. You can make a single page layout if you need to, but let me just show you the 2-page. Here we go. I made it using the Croptoberfest accessory paper pack. So just because I had several of those left over. So you can see here, we're going to be using the jumbo circle. We've got some mats, really focus on putting together your background. I've got mats put in here in sample configuration, but if this configuration doesn't work for you, you make it work for you. So you would just leave the mats off entirely. So we're going to focus on putting all the background elements in place. So you will need, if you're going to do a 2-page layout, you're going to need 2 background pages. For my demo or my sample layout, I use navy cardstock. For tonight, I don't have any photos, but I am going to be using the Nordic Winter collection. So I've got some hot fudge paper cardstock here. I'm going to be using hot fudge. And then we're going to want to choose a piece of paper that we're going to be cutting with our jumbo circle. And that is these elements you see here in the corners. So you want to pick a piece of paper that you like both sides of. When you fold it, that you have a nice, enough contrast that you can see the difference. Just kind of think about how you like how that looks. So what I've chosen is I have chosen this dark, it's brown stripe on one side. The opposite side kind of has those fir leaves on them or fir branches. And I just thought there was a nice contrast, but it's not too overwhelming. Where you see the blue stripe here, I will probably have the brown stripe. I wanted to go something a little tonal since I'm using that hot fudge cardstock, that we will see a little bit of some tonal action going on here where it won't be too contrasty between the background and the big piece of the paper that we see with these corner pieces. And then that folded bit is going to come down in those triangles. So we can see that it's just going to have a little bit of the folding there. Now, one thing I do want to point out, when we fold our paper, you can see right here, if you're using a directional paper, one of your pieces is going to end up upside down. That's just how it works. So with that in mind, it worked okay for me because the trees are very, very tonal here. I think if it had been a higher contrast piece of paper, you would have noticed, like if I had used one of the pieces of the Christmas tree paper out of the Christmas cheer pack, you would have noticed upside down Christmas trees, and that would have been maybe a little bit awkward. So what the paper that I've selected, I've got some directional to my stripes, which is fine. When I fold this over, my fir branch leaves here are going to be okay, being upside down and right side up. I think that'll be just fine. So that's just something to keep in mind there. Now, I'm going to use the jumbo circle on this piece. The other piece of paper that we're going to want to select is, we want to do something where we can punch a border. We need 4 border elements. So to get 4 border elements, it's usually easiest for us just to punch a border, because then we can make as many of them as we want. So I am going to be using, the, I think, mosaic diamond. I use it a lot. I know when Tessa told me she hadn't opened it, I literally was like, are you serious? Like, how have you not opened it? But I really do like it. So I'm going to use that. I think it goes really well with Nordic Winter. It's just kind of got that, I don't know, beam effect going on. Makes me think of like cabin beams or something like that. But what am I going to punch it with? I need a piece of paper to punch it with. So I've got, it's going to go on my hot fudge cardstock. So I picked this piece of paper here. I'm going to punch it in this creamy beige. And then what's going to allow me to do is I will be able to make some mats. So where you see the light blue mats on either side, I'll be able to make mats out of the other side. So I will have green mats right here. And then if I want to make additional mats here, what I did on my sample, you can see I just used the same piece of paper that I made my circle out of. So I've gone ahead and grabbed the other piece of that tonal stripe, and then I will probably use the fur pieces in here. So I'll have a little bit of green. You can see when I have some green mats, and that's all going to layer on the hot fudge. So that's where I'm going with this. I did see a question. Rebecca's asking what leaf is this? Is Autumn Leaves Border Punch. I know in my directions I refer to using a chain style BMC, but you really can just choose any chain style. Oh, on the corner, the leaves up here, that's the maple leaf punch, and it's been retired for a long time. So I'm sorry that I used old retired stuff. That's usually Tessa's area and expertise. So I am, but it just works so well with this. You can use any embellishment up in the corner there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do is we need to go ahead. Step 1 is we're going to use our jumbo circle with our blue blade. So this is going to cut about 11.5 to 11.75. I know most people have the jumbo circle. If you do not have the jumbo circle, you can use a big plate. Anything that's going to give you, we want a big chunky circle. It just takes up the most space here in the corners. But if you need to make a smaller circle, then you're just going to have to adapt a little bit of the thing. And I can see here, I've got there we go. I didn't get my thing figured out. Sorry, that was annoying. Okay. As big of a circle as you can get. If you have the jumbo circle, that's fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line it up in the middle just because I always do. And I'm going to center it on here as best I can. And then I'm going to cut it with the blue blade on the outside track. And like I said, that is about an 11 3/4, somewhere between 11.5 to 11 3/4. Save these pieces here, because when I ended up needing to punch pieces for the accent corners, I was able to punch it out of these corners here. So save that. Don't let that go too far. All right, so that's step one. We've cut the circle with our blue blade on the outside track. Now what we need to do is we need to cut this circle in half. And here's what I do want you to pay attention to. If you happen to have a direction, like I've got a direction here, I am going to make sure that I cut mine parallel with this stripe. And so I need my trimmer. If you want to pay attention, if I could flip it over to the opposite side and, look on this, but this pattern, I'm not so worried about it being cut perfectly straight. This stripe is much more important to me to make sure that it is straight. So what I'm going to do is when you're using a large circle with your trimmer, let me bump this up. I did not do a good job of getting myself set for this. You can you can actually use your trimmer to find the center. And what you're do is you're going to put your jumbo circle right here so that it's nestled right down in the bottom of the trimmer between this little cutout where the blade rests, or the arm rests down in there. And if you get it down there and you've got it touching on both of those corners down here, that will be center. Now, what I need to do though, is I need to rotate it because I want to get parallel with my stripe. I want to make sure when I cut this, that my stripe is nice and parallel to my cut line. So I'm just eyeballing it, making sure I'm keeping tucked in there nice and close to those that spot on the bottom of the trimmer. You could also use it at the top if you prefer. The bottom is closer to me, so I use the bottom. I'm going to close my trimmer and I'm going to double check that I'm parallel. I'm looking for an even distance all the way down, that my stripe is straight with my cutting guide, or my cutting arm, and I look good. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. Now, if you had needed to, what you could have done is you could have folded your circle in half and pinched the top and bottom corner. And you can see here, I'm pretty close. I'm maybe ever so slightly off, but not enough that it's going to be noticeable. So that takes us through step two. We need to cut our circle in half. Now, to find midpoint of these circles, I could come in here and I can line it up in the bottom and then look for straight across here. I'm looking for horizontal to my, I'm looking to be parallel to my horizontal lines. But because I don't really meet a good spot where I can just absolutely be certain I'm perfect, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my half circle, I'm going to fold it so that my tips here meet. And then I'm going to come back here, run my fingers along it, and I'm going to pinch. I'm just giving a little pinch. You just see, I gave it just a little pinch. And that's going to find middle. Now, once I found middle, all I have to do is bring that pinch point down here, line it up with where my blade crosses for cutting. And that's the middle. And I'll go ahead and cut. So now I've got 2 quarter circles. I need to repeat that with my second piece. So I'm going to go ahead and pinch. I'm going to fold in half. Run my finger there and give it a quick pinch, just a little one, doesn't need to be a big pinch. Line up that pinch point with where I can see my cutting groove is. Should be on that dash line, and trim. So now I've got 4 quarter circles that are all about the same. They should all be relatively close to the same size. All right, So we have done steps 1, 2, and 3. Now we've got our 4 quarters. We are ready to do step 4. Now, if you have a Creative Memories trimmer, you will see you do have a 45-degree angle. You're going to take one of your quarter squares or quarter circles, line it up on that 45-degree line. You're going to move it all the way up until your tip of your quarter circle comes across your cutting line, right up here at the top. You can see where it is. So we're not all the way to the top. My tip over here, I'm just past 4 inches, but really what you want to focus on is making sure that you are even with that 45-degree angle, plus you're crossing that line. Now, we are not going to cut this all the way down. What we actually want to do is we're going to find 5.5 inches on our arm. So I'm going to come down here from the top. There's the 5. I need to come down between 5 and 6. So I'm going to come here to 5.5. I'm going to take and line up my white line. You see that white line on the side of that blade housing? I'm going to line that up at 5.5 inches. So 5.5 inches. If you need to, if you cannot see it, you can take you can use a Sharpie, you can use your journal pen. You might even be able to use a photo marking pen. I'm going to move this out of the way really quick, and I'm going to come out here and I'm just going to extend that line. I'm going to mark it on the side. See what I did? Well, I don't know if you can see it right there. See, I made that little line. So now I can see where it is. It wipes off later. So yes, I do see a comment. You can line the blade housing unit up. The back of the blade housing unit can come down here to 6.5 if you want. The back end of that blade unit is right here at 6.5. The white mark is 1 inch from the end of the blade housing unit. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got everything lined up where I want it. Need to make one little adjustment. And I'll go ahead and cut. And then you're going to make the same cut 4 times, 1 on each of these quarter pieces. So there's cut 1. If you wanted to, you could set a binder clip. You could place where you want to start your blade housing and then set a binder clip right behind it. And I'm going to go ahead and cut one last one. Okay. I'm going to set my trimmer to the side for a few minutes. We're now ready to move on to step 5. So step 5, we can see, I want you to line up that piece, that quarter circle on your map the same way that I've got mine lined up. So the curve is coming up over here to the left towards 0. This is the 0 down here at the bottom, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Line it up there. And then you're going to grab one of these cut corners and you're going to fold it back until the tip reaches the 1 inch mark. And then you're going to go ahead and fold it all the way up till you reach the 1 inch mark right over here. To do the other side, we're just going to bring this over. We rotate it over 90 degrees or flip it over to the other side so it lines up at 12 inches. And we're going to bring this tip all the way over till it lines up with 11. So it's 1 inch from the end. And you want to make sure that that point is flush, that you're flush along the bottom edge. And that should then give us a nice 90-degree angle here, and those flaps are to the outside. If you want, you can go ahead and use some adhesive to get them to stick. You could do that part later if you want. And you're going to repeat those steps on each of the 4 quarter pieces. Pull it over so that it's 1 inch from the end, from that edge. And just keep working it there. And 1 more, and then we'll have all 4 pieces done. Okay, so now I have all 4 of those pieces done. And I'm just going to set them out of the way for right now. Because next I want to go ahead and I'm going to make some mats and I'm going to punch my borders. So if you know that you're not sure what you're going to do with your mats yet, you can just punch the 4 borders. You can really separate these pieces from each other. I worked to have all of these pieces cut from, papers, trying to maximize the paper that I was using. But the mats may not work for you. So I focus on, getting a piece of paper that you like to do your top and bottom border. And then you can either use that same piece of paper for your mats. You can grab other mats. It really depends on the photos. You may, if you're just making the basic layout, you may want to wait to cut your mats until you have your photos. Sometimes I just toss in the extra paper with it that I can use when I'm actually ready to put the layout together. So I am going to punch, and I'm actually going to punch it from this side, and I'm going to punch it horizontal this way. And like I said, I am going to be using mosaic diamonds for mine. So I need 4 mosaic diamonds. And I am going to punch and then trim at 1 1/8 inch for mosaic diamonds, since it's not a chain. Any of our borders can become chain borders as long as you cut it off, right? So I'm going to go ahead and punch and then cut. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to punch both sides, and then that will kind of let me do 2 rounds of punching. And I want to cut this at, trying to double check here. I want to cut it, I should be about 1 1/8 inch. I am just double checking. Yeah, about 1 1/8 inch. That seems to be about the rule of thumb, maybe a little bit past 1 1/8 inch. Yeah, I think it worked good to be about just a little bit past 1 1/8 inch. And then I'm going to punch and cut one more time. Punch both sides. And I'll go ahead and cut each one of these off. So just give yourself those 4 chain borders. You really just need 8-inch lengths of them. So if you really wanted to conserve paper, you probably could have cut an 8-inch wide strip and just cut pieces off of that. But I went with ease over economy there, I guess you might say. So if you are a person who really likes to stretch your paper, you really only need 8-inch segments. So I've got my 4 chain borders here, or I have 4 borders I've turned into chain style borders. And I still have this big piece left that I can make mats out of. So I'm going to hold on to this before I make mats. I'm going to make the background first, and then I'll be able to decide what I'm going to cut for mats here. The third piece of designer paper is also used for mats. So I'm actually going to put my background pieces together first. And then I will, so I'm going to come down here to step 9. And after I've done step 9, I'll have both pieces of my layout done. And so I can make the determination, do I like this for mats? And do I like the green? Do I want to use cardstock instead? So I'm going to come here, grab my hot fudge cardstock base, pull my chain borders out. I'm going to line up my hot fudge cardstock on my 13 by 13 mat. I am going to be using the rulers on here. So I want to make sure my mat, my paper is on here nice and centered. And then I need to go ahead and use some repo adhesive to put my chain borders on. But before I do so, I am going to do a quick dry fit. I want to make sure that I like these borders, that I don't, maybe I want to use the green. The green might be fun. I don't know. Let me bring that down so you guys can see it better. I kind of just wanted more hint of green rather than like a lot of green. So going like something like this, and then you can imagine I will come in with a little bit of green here for a mat. And then what I could do is come in with the beige. So like there's the mat, and then I would have some additional beige there. So yeah, some say, okay, so imagine I've got some green there. And I could switch it up. I could use the beige here and the green here. The downside to the green is I feel like I lose the design a little bit because that pattern is pretty bold. So I think I'm going to stick with the green for my mats. And I think if I had green too much of it, the pattern I think in this paper, because it's got such a high contrast between for the beige lines in there, I think it makes it really difficult sometimes with the punching. You have to be careful. So I think I am going to use the beige on this. If I wanted to, I could come in. Oh my goodness. I had some, let's see if I can find some paper really fast. It's not gonna drive me nuts. Okay, I could come in and be really fancy here. And back that. I am using some old, this is olive from, yeah, I think I'm going to do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some olive cardstock behind it really quick. And it's just a 1-inch strip that goes behind it. And we're going to put these on first because then we'll layer those corners on top. And it's going to be roughly, what did I say, about a 1/2 inch from the bottom. Yeah, they're just here. Do you want about even spacing from the bottom? I think I did about a 1/2 inch. Actually, I don't think I measured it. I went with what I thought looked good. So I'm going to come down not quite a 1/2 inch. I'm about 3/8 of an inch from the bottom. I want to give myself plenty of space to put my photos in there. You want to grab your T-square, you could certainly do so. And you just need to come over, it only needs to come over by about 4 to 8 inches or so. And just whatever measurement you use on this side, you're going to want to use it on the other side too. And now that I've got those in space, and this is a little bit off, it's going to drive me nuts only because the design starts. I want my designs to be even. Yeah, that's going to be good. And now we can put these corners in place. The quarter circles. And they just sit in here flush on the outside edges. So just kind of I use regular adhesive. I'm just using a little bit of light pressure. I'm going to spin this around so I can see. I can't see when it's the far side. I just want to make sure it's even to the edges. But if you're using regular adhesive, if you just don't put a lot of pressure on it, you still have a little bit of flexibility to move things around. And then once you've got it where you want it, then you just put that pressure on it to really get it down nice and tight. All right, then I can come in here. You can use your trimmer. I'm just gonna grab my scissors really quick and snip this flush. And there is one side. So we'll go ahead and just quickly do the other side. I'm going to cut 2 more bits of I think I can get 2 more 1-inch strips out of this. And I can definitely save these pieces. I'm going to save those for something else. It might be something to work into my design someplace else. I don't know. They're cute. I'll probably just put them in with my Nordic winter stuff. If I don't use them now, I don't normally save all the border pieces like that, but because these, I don't know, it's cute. I like the colors. I think that really worked well. So now on this side, remember, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start it 8 inches going this direction. Now I'm going to be going towards the right. It wouldn't matter too much. I could just flip my paper around, but I am going to build it this direction, starting here at 8 inches, 3/8 of an inch from the bottom. Same thing here at the top. 3/8 of an inch from the top, lining it up at 4, which is really nice because it does cut right along that edge. All right. And I'll adhere these last 2 corners in place. Almost done. Spin this all around so I can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't even thought about what I'm doing here at in the corners. I do see a comment. Jennifer said I thought I was doing a 1/2 an inch. I decided to do 3/8 of an inch just to give myself a little bit more space. So I've got an even spacing. I'm about 3/8 of an inch. You could easily do 1/2 an inch. You're just going to go with whatever works well for you. I don't remember if I put 1/2 an inch on my. I didn't really put a measurement on the directions because it really is going to depend on what you're using for your border. Okay. So now here we have the basic background. We'll kind of see here where we're going. A little bit of some frame action going on. So we've got, now I am going to go ahead, I think, and cut some of those mats. I am going to go ahead and do, I did all the mats as 4x6s, and then you can cut those down. You can cut your photos down to be just shy of 4x6. I do that because it is an efficient use of paper doing the 4x6 mats. I've got a little bit of space here. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and make this closer to 4.5 by 6.5, so I can have a little bit of a chunkier mat on the green on the outside here. So I'm going to come over here to 4.5. By 6.5. And this would be something if you've got some leftover variety mats, maybe you have a 4.5 by 6.5 inch mat that you want to use. So that's definitely possible. Over here to 6.5 by 4.5. All right, so there's the chunky mats on the outside. Now, one thing I didn't talk about, quickly, I will go ahead and cut these mats to 4x6. They're horizontal mats, so I will cut them so that my leaves are going, they kind of have that upward. Not that by the time you get photos on there, you really won't matter. In fact, I could probably use beige cardstock and it would be just fine. But I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 sets. I need 2. I say I need a total of 4 4x6 mats. A lot of times I prefer to use just cardstock for my mats if I have a cardstock that goes well with the collection, and beige would have gone really well here. Just saves my designer paper for other uses. I could also use the stripes if I wanted to. My stripes are going opposite though. My other piece, so I'm going to stick with my beige. I have a little bit of, I have quite a bit of overlap because I did do the chunkier mats here. One of the things I could do is instead of putting 4x6, I could cut this down a little bit and use slightly less narrower photos, not as wide if I wanted to have the big full 4x6 here. So you just play around with your mats a little bit till you get the size and the spacing that you like. Now, the detail that I didn't really talk about in the handout that I do want to mention is I used let me find it here. I ended up using the owl punch to get it, but you probably have other punches, or really, I just punched all sorts of things out of that with this mosaic diamond, is to come in and grab little pieces where those corners are. So I could either come in and I kind of like the diamond, but I don't like the fact that I've got those lines through it because I think it's hard to see. But what I do have left is some scrap of that the olive piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it in here and try to get some pieces. I'm really just wanting to get that diamond shape that's in the middle. So I'm really going to work it in, see where I can find the diamonds. It's just a little detail that's going to go in those corners. I use in my sample, I use the owl punch and I use the circles that make the eyeballs. I use those circles. Oh, I see what you guys say. My stripes. I'll have to fix that. I'll get it fixed. I need to. That's easy enough to fix. I wasn't paying attention. I would have figured it out when I took photos, and that would have been pretty crazy to see. We'll go this way. That will work much better. So thank you for calling that out. There we go. That's going to be better. I'm going to get some adhesive on these little diamond shapes. You could use any little shape here. You don't have to put anything there. And then you've got these corners to decorate, embellish however you want. You could use, you know, any of our punches will fit nicely in there. You can actually come in with a circle, the 1 3/4 inch circle, or the 1 3/4 inch square. And you can put one of those in there and then embellish on top of it. You could do a sticker cluster. You could do punched elements work great just because we can make as many of them as we need, and you need 4. So that's why doing the punched element worked awesome. I'm gonna do one last little piece here, and then I think after that, it really comes down to being able to figure out what I'm gonna put in the corners. I am really working this scrap as much as I can to get these olive. This color of olive cardstock is probably the one green, if Creative Memories would come back with a color, that I would like beg them for. But I will admit, guys, that I didn't really like evergreen when it was out, but I do wish we'd bring back that evergreen. I feel like we have been seeing it fairly consistently in some of our color palettes for the collections, and it would be nice to have that as a cardstock color. So maybe they can give us a throwback cardstock. That'd be pretty sweet. All right. So there we go. Yes, they do look like fancy buttons. So there you go. You can see we've got some options, but in all reality, what I really want you is to think about is you just have some flexibility. You can have this layout. You can figure out what works best for you. What do you want to put in the corners? How do you want to put your photos on here? And that always is fun to see how you guys decorate everything. So, all right, that is my layout. Hopefully, I'm going to just buzz really quick here through and see if there's any additional questions that I missed. I think I got everything on here. So, all right, let me switch back up here. Is Tessa back? I talked long enough for you to go and come back. She told me as we're signing on today, she's like, yeah, I have to leave at 9 Eastern to go pick up Cooper. And I'm like, great, let me do all the work. And so I think that's why she talked super long, so that she knew she would have time to go pick him up and come back, right?
Yeah, and
I should have like kicked you out and then you wouldn't have been able to come back in and turned on the waiting room and you could have
well,
been like, yeah,
then he's 11 minutes late coming out, and I'm like, she really is going to be done before I get back.
yeah, I know. Well, that's what it take me. It took me 40 minutes. So yeah, it was about standard for me. So
Yeah, I
you
don't
were
know
the
why I was
one.
stressed. I only gave you 14 to start with, so it should have been shocking if you were actually done. But
Well, maybe if I hadn't put some things on upside down, I could have been done quicker.
but
But
at least you weren't giving the wrong
I guess
measurements, everyone.
to wrap things up for today, on your handout, you will notice underneath, well, somewhere on there, I didn't look at where Tessa's is, but you'll see on mine, it's right under the November 2023. You'll see the hashtag for this month. If you would please share your layouts in the ideas and inspiration group. We love seeing all the different paper combos and punches and fun things that you guys share with them. You do not have to have photos on them. You can share before you add photos. If it's a privacy issue, you don't want to share your layout, put post-it notes or, little pieces of paper over the faces. We just love to see it. And we do have a drawing. Are you going to draw this before Thanksgiving or we just want to do it after?
I'm sure it'll be after.
Okay.
It's basically you get all month, because by the time I remember to draw, it'll probably be December.
Okay.
So
Well, you heard it straight from the boss's mouth, or excuse me, the queen's mouth. So we're not going to do this drawing until December 1st. So you need to have your layouts done and share them in the Facebook group, the Ideas and Inspiration Facebook group, with the hashtag by end of day on November 30th. And Tessa will draw on December 1st. Quick tip, if you post each one of our layouts separately, that's like 2 chances to win, right? We do announce who wins. I don't know, Tessa, when you do those, do you do those as a featured post? Do you pin it?
no,
So sometimes we'll start doing that though, won't we, Tessa? We will start pinning it so you guys can see who wins. I think sometimes with the pace at which Facebook goes, it is sometimes hard to keep up with all of that. Uh, Definitely pay attention. I mean, yeah, find out. We always reach out to you. If you do win and you don't catch the fact that we tagged you in the post, we'll reach out to you to let you know about the prize option or what, Tessa sends out some Happy Meal. I don't know. She takes care of that stuff.
I message everyone that wins.
She does. She messages everybody. So, fun things coming up. We have Christmas cheer is our project workshop is coming up on Thursday. And so we have 6 layouts for you, plus Tessa's going to have some cards and tags and all sorts of good stuff from this collection. Lots of fun things. That's on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. It is recorded. So if you can't join us live, there will be a recording available of it. And then December Power Hour. Oh my goodness, what date did we decide? The 12th, right? Does that sound right?
Is that a Tuesday?
It's a Tuesday. We are doing it December
12th.
12th, but it's going to be a daytime option because Tessa has lots and lots and lots of basketball. And the only nights that she was available, unfortunately, I was not. Like she picks the one day a week. I can't do it. So we're going to have a daytime option for our December Power Hour. And then we will also be opening Winter Frolic registration very soon. That will start January 1st. And that's an 8-week kind of like scrap your stash, just fun little event that we do. But we'll have all the details for that. I know some of you have joined us in the past. We're looking forward to another fun 8 weeks. It really does help make January and February just go by a little bit faster. We count down those weeks, and then all of a sudden it's March, and then you're like daylight saving time, and then the spring thaw and all the fun stuff. So that will be really fun. That coming up soon. I think we're going to have registration open before we send out the newsletter, right?
Yes.
Yes. I'm just checking with the queen just to make sure.
Yes.
So we'll have that should be in the newsletter that goes out because we will be sending out a email with the recording from tonight along with the corrected handout. And then it will have all the registration stuff for the classes. All right, I think that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much. For those of you who have new stamp and storage stuff coming, thank you so much. We're so excited for you guys to get new storage. And love seeing what all the stuff you guys have shared
Yeah,
with all that fun stuff.
if you missed it, that sale ended the 13th. If you missed it and you have things on your wish list, I would just maybe wait until next weekend and see what happens to come. But for anyone, if you have stamp and storage and you take pictures in the email we sent last week, if you post them in the ideas group with pictures, the hashtag, and our shopping link, then you'll be in the drawing for a $100 gift card. There's only been like 5 people that have posted. So those people currently have like a 2 in 5 odds of getting a $100 gift card. So if you want in on that, we're just sharing with what we have. Everyone likes to see how people organize. And so it's just a fun way to share that, and we can share the love and do it. Because honestly, we do get a small commission for people that should use our link. And that is actually what helps pay for like the email and server that we have to pay for to send all this free stuff out and whatnot. So it is very helpful if you use our link instead of just going to the website directly. That's a very shameless plug.
Yes, and if you're ever needing to like, oh, I want to get to the stamp and storage and I don't know how to get Meggan and Tessa's link, you can go to our website, meganandtessa.com, and you can, on the sidebar, there is a link to the stamp and storage, and we definitely appreciate your guys' support there. And I know stamp and storage are the sweetest people, and so they appreciate your guys' support as well.
One other plug is we have been starting to put Power Hour on the blog. And so I think we have 2 months. I don't know if it's maybe Power Hour is 1 month, but the beginner ones. So if you have missed the beginner classes that we've done, those are blog posts in meganandtessa.com/blog, and Power Hour will start being one. So if you want to share it with your friends or you need to reorient to where the video is, you'll be able to start just finding the blog post and getting the video link in there. And then the handout. What are we deciding about the handout? I think it links to the website. It's on the website, and the blog post links to the website.
It's in the web store. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's everything. And yeah, so the email will probably be delayed tomorrow. It will probably get to the blog first. The email will probably be slightly delayed because we have to get Winter Frolic on there. And I will add in the stamp and storage drawing info also into the email in case you missed it. Because sometimes email servers don't realize our emails should never be filtered, and they get filtered. I mean, everything from us is warranted, right? For sure.
Very important stuff. Stamp and storage I don't think they ship to, or if they do ship to Canada, I think it's been pretty cost prohibitive.
Yeah, same for Australia. But stamp and storage, for those of you new to it, like the carousel behind me is stamp and storage. I have my marker nook, that one next to it, stamp and storage. My cubes are Michael's. They're the 16 by 16. You see some people that have the Galax cubes, but I can see some of you have your lovely pieces behind you. I could start calling you out by name. Carol, Jenny. I could have to scroll screens to see who else has it. So I know a lot of you have it and love it. So definitely share that. Okay, well, we should probably stop chatting. It's almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we went for a power 90 tonight. I mean, that's pretty good for 100. Us. Power of what? A power 100? No, yeah. I'm getting hungry.
All right, thank you guys.
Yes, thanks so much for joining us. We will see you guys soon.